All right, today's video, we are taking care of a lot of the odds and ends that need to get done. So let's get to it. All right, we are gearing down this sled. So we were going from a 21 tooth to a 20 tooth. So we pulled the chain case off, and now we just put this guy on here somehow, and then put the chain back on. That's just gear down kit. Gear down, not a kit, just a gear down. Okay, we are changing the gear ratio in this sled. So we're changing out the top gear. We're doing this because we want to have more low-end torque. We want to be able to hit harder coming off the line. Mostly, I'm not worried about top speed because we're tree riding. So if you look at all the gear down, all the belt drives, they're all doing gear downs. I think everything except for maybe the Polaris, the new belt drive they just came out with, the QD2 or Q something 2. But most guys are gearing down so they have that lower end power.
So here's the two gears, 21 down to 20, just like riding a bike. Yeah. Smaller gear, more torque.
Okay, we are now going to take
the
track off. So we'll get to it.
One hour later.
All right, the track is out. It's over there.
A little bit of shenanigans, but
not too bad.
Yeah.
Just the hardest part was getting the puller behind the brake assembly.
I think once we were able to pop something, we just had to get it out of this bearing, right? Because it's not really pressed in. As soon as it popped out, there was room to get the puller on.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, honestly, not too bad.
No,
you just make sure to take, you take all the chain case off. You don't have to take the top gear off. We're just doing the gear down.
You don't have to take all this off.
Yeah, we were doing that for other stuff. But yeah.
So I think we're gonna order a new track because our track is missing 12 lugs.
Good, yeah. Oh, I will say this C&T Power Sports Polar.
This is what it looks like.
Not a sponsor yet.
So something like this, it just hooks on to basically goes in like this behind the rotor, not the rotor, the mount, and just hooks on.
Yeah.
That was the most difficult part, is getting clearance. And I think once we popped it out of that bearing, it just slid right on.
Yeah. But it wasn't even that bad. As far as like things I've done in the past, it's not that bad. So, pulled the track. We'll order a new one, 2.5, and then
Our next step, we gotta get this. We're gonna get
take the
NSCs on everything.
yeah, we're gonna take the batteries in here, take that out, take the starter off, lighten this thing up a bit.
Cut the tunnel.
Cut it a ton. So.
Yeah.
All right. Two things. When we were taking the track out, so what we keep talking about that we had to pop out is the drivers. And so the drivers are on like kind of an axle that we had to slide out to get the track out. We also had to take the skid out, which we didn't talk much about because we did it in other videos and we just figured you guys would know. You probably do know. So we took the skid out, the drivers out. Putting it back in, you just put the drivers in the skid, in the track, and then put that in, back in. It just kind of fishes into place. You put it back through the brake and then into the chain, where the chain case goes into the chain case. Yeah, and then you just put the brake brackets, or not brackets, but like with the brake caliper, I don't know what you call it, back on. And so it's pretty easy, and then you have to put the skid back in as well. So as we talked about way back at the first of this build, we are doing a ton of stuff to the suspension. So that means we're changing the rear suspension, or the rear shocks, the front shocks, but Tony's gonna tell us a little bit about what we're doing to the rear shocks to get us a little bit better transfer or wheelie. All right, Tony, what are we doing for rear shocks?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace this pretty beat up stock SP shock with the rebuildable X model shock. This came off of Ben's 2018, never been ridden. What's nice about this is this is a rebuildable shock, but it also has preload adjustment that's threaded, so you can pretty much put whatever spring package you want on there. This style has, you basically have like 4 or 5 preload adjustments. There's just not as many options for this guy. So with that, we also had to make a new spring retainer clip, because the springs we're putting on are 2-inch ID. I think these were maybe like 1.9.
What does ID mean?
Internal diameter.
Okay.
So if you look on here, see how loose this spring retainer was? So basically, machined this yesterday. That'll fit nice and tight. We're gonna run a dual rate setup, which has this crossover ring. So essentially we could just show you how we'll mount it. Top spring, your crossover. The spring is way too long. We have an 8-inch spring. We're gonna pull them off of my sled, but
Because that's a front. This
this was off the front.
Yeah.
Just for size wise, but that's how we'll run it. And these spring retainers, they just basically slide on and locks in.
We can show them how to do that when we get it off. What's the main purpose for us doing this?
We're trying to make it stiffer. We want a stiff front shock and soft rear, because we want the sled to basically like wheelie over backwards. And to do that, we're gonna make the limiter strap as long as possible, stiffen and put an extra preload in that front shock, because that'll make it bite. And then with the soft rear, it's just gonna want to wheelie on you.
Awesome. Cool.
You have pretty much infinite preload options with a setup like that.
Nice.
So there you have it.
Eventually.
Put the Skins adjustable brake lever on and the TKI e-brake lever. Got the pyramid frame on. What else did we do? I don't know if we talked about it. We put the risers on. Risers, you want to make sure that they are in line with your steering post. Otherwise you get oversteer and understeer, right, Tony? Is that the right words? Anyways, you get bad steering if it's not all in line. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. Oh, Tony tightened up the chain case cover. So, yep. Okay, so we got a lot done. You know, we put a bunch of stuff back together. We got the spindles on, we got the pyramid frame on, a lot of stuff done. We're getting excited to ride this sled. It's gonna be a sweet build. Keep watching because we have a few more things to do before we wrap up this build. So